If you were born between 1976 and 1985, you were never supposed to exist. Not Gen X, not millennial, not fully analog, not fully digital. You are the generation nobody knows what to do with. And that's not an accident. You were still forming your identity when the entire world rewired itself. And neuroscience says that changes everything. You're not forgotten. You're erased. You are the bridge generation. And nobody talks about what that did to you. Let me take you back for a second. You remember recording songs off the radio onto cassette tapes, holding your breath during the intro, praying the DJ wouldn't talk over it. You remember dialing a house phone, and when your crush's dad picked up, you had to introduce yourself to a grown adult with sweaty palms and a rehearsed script in your head. If they weren't home, you waited. There was no "you up" text at 2 a.m., no typing bubbles, no read receipts, just silence and patience. You remember boredom, not scrolling boredom, not "I've seen everything on Netflix" boredom, real boredom. Summer afternoons lying on the floor, staring at the ceiling, listening to a lawnmower somewhere in the distance. No notifications, no algorithm, no infinite scroll, just you and your thoughts. And somehow you survived it. But then something happened. Right when you were becoming an adult, right when your brain was still deciding who you were going to be, the world shifted. Email, then Friendster, then MySpace, then Facebook, then Twitter, then Instagram. Suddenly the rules changed from "call me later" to "why didn't you text me back?" From "meet me at the mall at 3" to "share your live location." From "that was embarrassing" to "that was screenshotted" and permanent. Here's what makes your experience different. Research published in Neuropsychiatric Disease and Treatment shows that your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for identity formation, long-term decision-making, and adapting to change, doesn't fully mature until your mid-20s. That means you were still neurologically forming yourself when the digital revolution hit. Your brain was still plastic, still building neural pathways, still deciding who you were. Gen X grew up analog and stayed there. Millennials were born into digital and never knew anything different. But you had one foot in each world, and your brain wired itself during the transition. Think about that. You learned how to be alone without feeling lonely. But you also learned how to never be alone again, even when you needed to be. You learned patience, waiting for photos to be developed, waiting for your favorite song, waiting for someone to call back. But you also learned immediacy, one-click purchases, instant answers, same-day delivery. 2 operating systems, running in the same mind. And then came 2008, the financial crisis. You entered adulthood during the worst recession in decades. You graduated with debt, sent out hundreds of resumes, took unpaid internships just to get experience. You watched people older than you lose jobs, lose houses, lose security. And you quietly realized something. The promises weren't guaranteed. Research from the Journal of Development and Psychopathology shows that financial instability during your 20s creates long-term psychological patterns around risk, safety, and trust. So not only did you adapt to a digital revolution, you internalized economic trauma during your identity-forming years. You learned, nothing is stable, nothing is guaranteed. Everything can disappear overnight. You learned to survive, but you never learned to rest. And that's the part no one talks about. You carry the memory of a world that doesn't exist anymore. You remember conversations without phones on the table. You remember taking photos because they mattered, not because they needed engagement. You remember making plans and trusting someone would show up. No backup text, no live tracking, just trust. You remember mystery. You remember anticipation. You remember not knowing everything. And you also appreciate technology. You love video calling family. You love having information in your pocket. You love not rewinding VHS tapes. You're not bitter. You're bilingual. Analog heart. Digital mind. But standing in the middle is exhausting. You're too young to fully relate to Gen X cynicism. Too old to feel at home with oversharing culture. You don't fully belong on either side. And that isolation? It's subtle, but it's real. So let me say this clearly. You are not broken. You're not bad at commitment. You just learned that stability is fragile. You're not emotionally distant. You grew up when privacy was normal. You're not behind. You entered adulthood during economic collapse. You're not cynical. You just watch the rules change halfway through the game. If you were born between 1976 and 1985, you are not invisible. You are the bridge generation, the translators, the ones who understand both silence and constant noise. You've already survived one world ending and another one beginning. And if that's not resilience, I don't know what is. If this resonated with you, share it. Not for me, but for the person who's been quietly carrying this weight and didn't have words for it. I'll see you in the next one.